Building a great B2B go-to-market engine starts with understanding what actually works and evolving it. I'm your host, Rob Carroll, and this is a go-to-market perspective, where marketing and sales leaders share what really works, foundational best practices, smart trade-offs, and practical AI you can actually use. The job market for senior marketing leaders has flipped. Just a few years ago, experienced marketers were fielding multiple offers. Yet today it's a buyer's market, and founders have the luxury of being hyper-selective. Boards and investors expect marketing to do more with less, and AI is reshaping what a qualified marketing leader even means. Today I'm excited to be joined by executive marketing recruiter and published author, Michael King. Michael's been placing senior marketing tech leaders for more than 20 years and has experienced the waves of uncertainty from the dot boom and financial crisis to the pandemic and shifts in power dynamics between candidates and the companies that are hiring them. I'm excited to unpack what it really takes to land a senior marketing role in 2026, what the founders he's working with are looking for today when they hire the next marketing leader. Michael, welcome. Please, let's kick off with you sharing a bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Born and raised Bay Area guy, currently living in Seattle. Fell into this whole wacky world of recruiting back in 1998, end of 98, beginning of 99. So have, like you've said, saw the dot boom, the dot bomb, financial crisis, pandemic, a little bit of everything, the explosion of SaaS and on demand, and now the explosion of AI.
Absolutely going to be an important part of our conversation of with the entrance of AI into every part of operations is shifted in terms of what they're looking for in candidates. Let's start talking about what founders and early stage companies might be looking for in their marketing leaders. What are some of the themes that are emerging now? And just like, let's start at the top. If like we're trying to build out a marketing function, what are some of the key skills and experiences that you're seeing founders looking for?
Well, right now, and we can talk startups, smaller startups, since that's kind of my sweet spot. So if we're looking at, early A's or B's, as you mentioned, companies are in the power position. So they're really holding out for the best candidate. And what I mean by that is, do they know the space? Do they know the ICP? If my company's at 20 and I'm looking to get to 50 and above, my first question is, tell me how you did that in your last role. Have they worked with this space, this buyer? And again, since they're in the power position, they can sit back and ask for that and wait for that. People that don't have that background are sending in their resumes and trying to get hired, but there's a reason why they're not getting contacted.
Interesting question that I know a lot of marketers are debating in terms of, do they know my space? Is it my specific industry, the size of my market, the specific personas, the actual technology space? Like, how specialized must you be in this day and age to be able to kind of secure that position?
Well, I tell people on the candidate side is, some people will say, gosh, I sent out, 40 resumes this week. Then I start asking them about the company size and the space. And a lot of them, they're not a fit.
Yeah.
And I try to coach them up of it's better to send out 5 or 10 at companies that will look at where you are currently working or where you used to work and see the fit, that the space. Again, I get people reach out that have been at big companies, 20 years, and they'll say, because my first question is always, so what's next? What are you looking for next? And they'll say, well, I've always wanted to go to a Series B and be the first VP of marketing. Yeah, I just like to be honest. And I said, well, that ship probably sailed 10 years ago. I mean, again, if I'm the CEO and I'm interviewing for someone to come into this role and help us go from 20 to 50 and above, that's my first question is, how have you done it? And if you can't tell me how, it's not a fit. So as a candidate, you really just, like an ABM approach, is really target companies that you are a fit for, revenue size, and also the space.
So for these, early stage, Series A, B type companies, what are the top challenges in this market that founders and leaders are trying to solve that so understanding you're looking for someone that's been there and had that experience, but what is the key challenges? Because there's lots of disciplines that they can be looking for.
Um, revenue. I mean, I don't think it hasn't changed a lot. Revenue efficiency, talking about how you've, again, past experiences. What were revenue numbers when you started at this company? What are they when you're leaving now or when you left? How did you get there? Being able to present some strong metrics of how you've accomplished this. And that's the main thing that a lot of these smaller companies are looking for is how are you going to take us to that? And have you done it?
And then I guess in some of these cases, sometimes the salaries don't match the experience they're looking for. So there might be someone that's done it before, but they've done it before because they were like a revenue, marketing or a demand gen leader, but they've never really maybe done brand or positioning,
Right.
or that type of work. Where's the balance in terms of are they looking for T-shaped where I've got deep dive experience in one area, and so maybe they've done the positioning and brand work, but they've never run a demand team, or the opposite.
Right. Right.
So how does that usually factor in?
Well, a lot of that comes into play of trying to find out what they have right
Hmm.
now in place. I've worked with companies in the past that the CEO came right out and said, for this role, as say a Series A, so my first VP of marketing to lead all the marketing, I don't need the person to come from a huge demand gen background because at this company, that the CRO had a huge Rolodex, the CEO had a huge Rolodex. He
Hmm.
goes, we're not, we do not have a problem with pipeline. We have a problem with messaging, positioning, and so those are the companies that lean more on the product marketer coming up. So a lot of the success I see is when CEOs, founders, and board members
Hmm.
know what they need in this person. Is it the demand? Is it product marketing? I'm sure it's a little bit of everything, but usually people come up on a strength of the product marketing side or the demand gen side, and which one do we need now is the main thing.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, and I'm sure there's been frustrations on both sides regarding like the hiring company not exactly sure what they want or need, and the candidate not exactly sure what they're trying to position themselves for. So let's talk about frustration. So, what are you seeing with some of your clients, some of your actual leaders that are recruiting for marketing leadership roles? What's frustrating them today?
It's kind of what you just said. Do they know what they want? One of my, and I've been screaming this from the rooftops forever on LinkedIn, is people always ask, why is there so much turnover
Mhm.
at this role? And my answer has always been the same for 15 plus years. The person doing the hiring doesn't know what they're doing.
Right.
Be it the CEO or the board. I mean, the worst ones is when I see an early B put a press release that they just hired this person, and I look at the background, and it's all big company. They're like, oh, they were at Salesforce or they were a VP here at Google. I'm like, what made you think that that's what you need to get you from 20 to 50? And then, of course, it blows up in 8 months, and then they're back to the drawing board. But a screw up like that, 8 months to a year, that totally sets you back.
Yeah, no, 100%, and we've all kind of seen it, and I think you get the frustration, from the candidate side as well. Also, because it seems like the JD is asking for one thing, the interview questions and the reason we're not hiring you says something else, and so it's like to your earlier point of knowing what to target.
Yeah.
If the JD is not actually speaking for what the CEO or the founder of the
Right.
board or the investors are demanding,
Right.
and you're wasting everyone's time.
Right. And that's my big frustration because my first question, if you were a CEO at one of those companies and you were speaking to me about a possible search for VP of marketing, my first question is, well, tell me, what's the background look like? And some of them will go, well, a little bit everything. They have no idea. They're just throwing it out there. They want this product marketing, demand gen, all this. And I'm like, well, what's most important? Some of them, I think the successful ones that go on and do well know what piece is missing. The other ones are, going from the seat of their pants, and just going, well, be it a board member or a so-called advisor said, oh, you need a strong demand gen person because you need to build pipeline. In reality, they needed something more than that.
Painful learnings as they have to
Yeah, and some people have posted that on LinkedIn. I've commented about, and that's why sometimes you see people that fail the first time and they come back. Now they have a better understanding of, okay, if I do this again, this is what my hire is going to look like, because they didn't know.
Yeah, it makes sense. And let me ask you, we kind of hinted this already regarding, you better have a match in terms of your experience and the type of company we're trying to be.
Right.
But what types of biases are you seeing either consciously or unconsciously from these firms that are looking to hire marketing leadership?
Yeah.
I'll leave it open because there could be many.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in the 60 and above category, and it's sad, but it's alive and kicking. Ageism.
Yep.
I had a search last year. This CEO reached out, Series B, was looking to hire, senior VP marketing, the title was, but could be CMO, and had mentioned that they had spoken to 3 to 4 people already, but they weren't a fit. And I always ask, I said, well, tell me who are they and what's the profile? And he told me who they were, and I know all 4 of them, and they were all 50s, mid 50s. And I was like, wow, they're very good. What is it? And he goes, well, they came across as old school marketers, old playbooks. And so in his head, he had associated age with old playbooks, old marketers, not new ideas, we'll say a modern marketer. And it was frustrating to hear that because honestly, all 4 of those people could have done great in the role.
Yeah, and I'm in mid 50s myself, and I'm certainly feeling it and hearing it. And I think the key is the question is, what's the value of experience versus an innovative bent? The old folks may say, the more experience you have, the more you've had to innovate in your career and change. But at
Yeah.
the same time, there's also maybe just a general subconscious discomfort of they're older than me and I'd be their boss. And is that awkward?
And that, again, everything goes to the founder, the board, because they all have a say. You go through and you meet the CEO and they're like, yeah, okay, they could be good. They could be good, but then you meet a board member and in their mind, they're looking for this up and coming, young AI person. Then, of course, they're going to be swayed to not give the thumbs up on the candidate.
Yeah.
So and that's the trick. It's like, it would be great to know before you spoke to a CEO of what are they thinking. And that's, for most candidates, I believe it's helpful to work with someone like myself or another executive recruiter because they have that insight.
Yeah.
They're going to know the pain points and what this company is hopefully looking for, that they've told them exactly what they're looking for. And the other, back on the frustration part, is sometimes that changes during the process.
Right. They're learning as they're talking to people and saying, oh, this person, really talented, exactly not what I want. So I'm going to.
Yeah. Or they change it at the beginning. It's everything. And then all of a sudden they're like, you know what, thinking about it, maybe we want more brand and demand. We don't want product marketing. And then I was like, it is frustrating because you would hope that that's been flushed out already.
I'll give benefit of the doubt that it's all best intentioned for most cases, that it's just they're learning too.
Right.
First time
Well,
learning,
this thing that's still going on that I've heard from people, and I was introduced to this back in 2002, was asking people to do projects at the end of the process and with zero intent of hiring and
Right.
getting free consulting. And I posted something, I think it was last year. I had a guy I've placed before and just totally frustrated. And he just told me, he said, I'll talk to other companies, but he goes, I'm not doing another effing presentation. Never. He goes, I'll meet everybody. They can backdoor everything.
Mm-hmm.
If I've met everybody on the team, met the board, they backdoored me, everything, and they still don't think I'm the person, then it's not a right fit for me. What's a presentation going to do? And they've been burned.
I love that. That was like, it was a great anecdote in your book about, the one person that told you about this. It was like, and I'm billing them for my time.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And this was all new to me in 2002, that a company would ask for these presentations. I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, that lady was interesting because she felt that it was recorded and all these. And then when she just had that little voice that something was going on. And yeah, she goes, I'm sending them up. She never got paid, of course, but upset. And every time there's a downturn, that's what happened. 2021, you didn't see a lot of companies demanding that.
Yep.
Because the candidates were in control.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would submit people in 2021, they were talking to numerous companies. And if you were a hiring manager, I'd go, Robert, here's the deal. This person is interviewing at boom, boom, boom. They're in second round, third round. The person's amazing. We're going to need to move quickly. And you'd have your first conversation. And if you were like, wow, you would move this person through quickly. Now, companies are taking their time and asking for presentations. And I don't feel the urgency out there at this. Even last year was the same way. So far this year, not a big urgency like we need this person on yesterday. Or if they're talking to this person, the speed of it, worried that they're going to lose them to someone else.
Just feel confident, even if we lose them, there's
plenty out there.
Right. On the bench. So,
right.
Yeah, no, I wrote an article called About That Interview Project as well. And I personally I've experienced positive versions of it. I've experienced very negative versions of it. And, it all goes back to transparency and the intent of what they're trying to get out of that.
Right.
Just do the project, and candidates feeling handcuffed that how can I say no because I'm desperate to get a job.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's again back to the difference in hiring markets is now, it's companies. So you have to play their game.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about kind of the modern marketer. Let's talk about the modern marketer. It's all about AI. And I kind of laugh because I'll give you my fun editorial.
All right.
Active use of AI in marketing outside of like features and different platforms is not even 2 years old, right? So you're looking for deep expertise in deploying marketing efficiencies and marketing when it wasn't even a conversation 2 years ago.
Right.
So how do you balance that when, I absolutely agree. There's going to be the AI forward marketers that are just excited about it and are playing with it and are proving that they are not afraid of it, and there are those that are maybe truly old school and that don't want to touch it because I know what I'm doing. I don't need AI's help. So
right.
I guarantee that stuff's out there. But like, how real is it when this is still new?
Well, yes, it's still very new, but they want to hear that you are that, we'll just say, innovative, creative marketer who is playing with all these different tools and can tell them, I use this and it wasn't good because of this reason. Or, I'm using this and I've been able to do this. And it's just in their head. They're looking, if we want to say the oldest slang, thinking outside the box. I'm playing with these things daily compared to someone comes in and I ask them about AI and they said, well, yeah, I played around with Chat GPT, and I'm like, okay, that's not the only thing out there. So in my head, this isn't somebody that is out there testing and innovating and trying and finding like what's the best tool, because I've tried all these, and that's what I'm doing. I'm learning about this, and those are the people that they're going to want to talk to.
Yeah, and I imagine it's like just to your point, it's like if you say, "Oh, I've used Copilot or ChatGPT," it's like so has everyone, so is your
Right,
mom, so is you, so are your kids. Like,
right,
what are you proving? What can you teach me? You're being interviewed. What can you teach the person interviewing you about it?
right. And I think, again, since doing this so long, the whole AI fluency, it's going to be an impact the same way that SaaS on demand was, back in, we'll say, 2006, 2007, early SaaS. And I wrote something on LinkedIn about how it was deja vu all over again,
Mhm.
because, on the company side now is, I worked with a company which you're familiar with, Success Factors, way, way back 2004. They didn't even have an office yet, but they were a SaaS on demand people company. And I put a VP there and then started working with other companies, reaching out 05, '06, and all over the website, on demand, SaaS. But they were not a SaaS company.
Right.
Now, same thing. Everybody's an AI company. AI, AI. I mean, back then, those companies, but they had to put that. Now, same thing. If you don't have AI on your website, how are you going to get found?
Right. No, and it's funny because of course we've seen all these trends before. I'm an
Yes.
internet company. I'm a cloud company. I'm an AI company. Now translate all of that market disruption, and not only talk about marketing leaders now, because obviously you've worked with folks, like director level and other levels as well, and folks that are trying to be directors or VPs or heads of marketing in their careers, but earlier stage. How should folks think about reframing their own story and their career narrative, and as they're looking to your point about finding your niche and identifying what types of companies you want to work for and targeting those, what's some advice you can give to folks that are trying to build toward a marketing leadership career now?
Well, what I'll say is what I've been screaming from the rooftops forever is you chase companies, not money or title.
Hmm.
If I was in the market now, say as a director demand gen, and I say, I'd love to be a VP of marketing, CMO one day, I would really try to chase companies that are doing well and try to get in there as a director of demand gen. Whereas I have some people are like, well, that's a lateral. I want to go up and be a VP somewhere. I just think, and it's affecting a lot of people now that, a year ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago, started chasing those titles of I want to be a VP of marketing or CMO, and going to companies that weren't great companies.
Hmm.
And there's some people I know that have 3, 4 years ago great brands, and then all of a sudden they went to these other companies. Yes, you start thinking about it. They rolled the dice at a Series A or B to try to be a VP of marketing. Okay, good. But some of them I know went to companies that weren't good, and they had filtered and filtered through VPs of marketing and CMOs. And I was like, that's not the best move. Like, would it have been better to stay where you are for the next 2 years? And maybe you could have been by now the VP of demand gen.
Right.
And then if that company is doing well, now people are coming after you because you want to hopefully in your career be in the position where you will never have to look for a job. And I've been blessed over all these years to put people in roles at companies that just took off and they stayed there and wrote it and then just sat back and took offers.
Yeah, no, which is nirvana place to be for anyone trying to manage their career. What advice do you give in terms of what to look for, because it's like sometimes it's not obvious if it's a bad company. It seems they got the right funding, and they've got the right investors, and they brought in the right leaders. Like, what are some of the things that you look at when you're kind
Well,
of
the the first thing is turnover. I mean, I had a conversation yesterday with somebody that's looking at a VP marketing at a Series B, and he's like, "Oh, they just got this funding." And I went in and I started looking at all the short stints of
Mhm.
people. You know, they had a VP of marketing that recently left that was there for less than a year. They had a demand gen person less than a year. And then I was looking at all the turnover. And I was like, that tells you a story about something.
Right.
Now, what is it? Is it the candidates were bad? Is the CEO too hands on?
Mhm.
You know, there's a story going on here. And, some people will say, well, I'll go in and maybe I'm the best fit for it.
Yeah.
So yes, that could happen, but still you shouldn't be blind to really researching all the turnover at a company, because I think over all these years, I believe it is a window into the culture.
Yeah. And where there's smoke, there may very well be fire. So,
Right. At least reach out. And it's funny because some people don't do it. And I wrote about it probably last year. It still blows me away that people do not do that. Do not reach out to the person who was just in that role
mhm.
and just say, hey, can we speak off record here? I'm moving quickly with this. I just want to know what I'm walking into.
Right. No, it's a common sense, but it's not always obvious.
No. And then I'll reach out to them after I see they joined the company that I know is just huge turnover.
Hmm.
And I'll say, "Oh, did you talk to Steve, the previous CMO?" And no, I hit it off with sales, and I hit it off with the CEO. And I said, "Okay," I said, "just realize it was an interview. That their job is to convince you to join, and they're on their best behavior."
Hmm.
So, and then I think it was sad, but like 8 months later, the person left
Yeah.
because there was issues there. We'll say.
We're seeing some change once again into remote versus in office versus hybrid, especially in the Bay Area.
Yep.
There was all this talk of the benefits of remote, and now there's all these talks back to the original push. What are you thinking about that?
I from day one of the pandemic, I believe that it was always going to come back to in office, especially when we look at San Francisco as a city.
Yeah.
Born and raised there. People love it when I tell them that. They're like, "What was South of Market like growing up?" And I'm like, "There's nothing there. There's
Hmm.
nightclubs and warehouses. You know, so you have all these office space. So eventually, it was going to come back. It's interesting because we'll look back in the history of this and how it just changed people's thoughts on work life balance, which I believe in it because I had people pre-pandemic that husband and wife, boom, they're out the door at 7 in the morning, they're coming home at 7:30 at night. The kids had family members or nannies or what have you, and they blink and the kids are 15 years old. What the hell happened? Because they just heads down working. Then with the pandemic, people realized like, wow, it would be cool to take Debbie to a soccer game. It would be cool to take Bobby to his baseball game. And those people, I think, just went, you know what? I'm going to put parameters around my next search of minimum 3 days in. Some are like work from home 100%.
Hmm.
Um, I have a search in Mountain View, and it's interesting is people I've spoken to, they put up this little radius of how far they're willing to commute, which and this company's like 3 days in the office, and I have people that are going, nope, I'm not driving more than 45 minutes. Nope, I'm not going in 3 days a week. And
Yeah.
just the thought of ever hearing that before the pandemic would never have happened. It's like, if someone told me, oh, sorry, I only can go in 3 days, I'm like, how are you ever going to get hired? Everything is 5 days a week in tech.
Right.
It is. There's companies 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. And, I live in the Seattle area, and I loved it when the Amazon CEO said last year, 5 days in.
Mhm.
There was picketing and there was people complaining, and he was like, this is a job. If you don't want to work here, I'm not forcing you to work here. If this doesn't fit into your lifestyle, then fine. I'm sorry, but we're running a company and it's 5 days in the office.
Yeah, totally agree and understand that. On the other side of the equation, though, I'm curious about, especially in the Bay Area where salaries are extremely high because cost of livings are extremely high. It's a tier
Yep,
one
yep.
zone, right? What's the negative impact to companies when they limit their radius of that it has to be within commuting distance, even if it's an hour commute, that I'm only looking for people that are going to be these high salaries within this commuting distance where there could be someone at 75% the cost that's a flight away. I'm
Right.
just curious of what that decision framework is, right?
I would just say it's the cost of doing business.
Hmm.
They made a decision that they want, we'll say, butts in the seats. We want people here. I want my leaders here. And at the end of the day, I do realize that it's going to cost more, but that's how we're going to do it. It's even a buddy of mine that lives in the Bay Area that, matter of fact, moved from the Seattle area to the Bay Area, and he's like, I'm here. I know the taxes that I knew all this going in, but that's my cost of living in the Bay Area, and I want to be here, so I pay those costs.
No, totally makes sense. Okay, let me. I'm going to ask you talk about beginning a career. My son is graduating high school and is I love. He's like, well, first of all, he looks at me doing marketing and he's like, yeah, AI is going to totally eliminate your job any minute now, Dad. So I'm going to at least maybe finance will be something that's at least requires a little bit of discipline. So I'm like, okay, maybe you're right, and how dare you? But
Yeah,
when
yeah.
going and coming out of business school now, what should they be doing and focused on based on all the disruption you're saying?
Well, I'd be curious of how much exposure to AI have the schools taught them or told them about. Have they taught them anything or told them anything about AI?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we're looking at is like, what is their policy toward AI?
Right,
Are they still in the dark ages 18 months ago about worrying about plagiarism, or are they leaning into it, saying
right,
every aspect of our curriculum is going to be AI based and teaching you how to use AI in your career? And the schools that we're looking at absolutely are viewing. They have like AI playbooks of this is how we're trying to prepare you to consider these specialties in the world of AI. And
right.
I think a lot of good business schools are in fact leaning in. Thank God.
They
That's the
have to.
but yeah, in the end, the rubber meets the road because they don't move that fast when they build curriculums, and AI is moving way faster than companies can
Right.
adopt, much less educational institutions. So it's going to be an interesting couple of years, I think, for kids in this current
Well, that
phase.
was still the same, like 2019, 2020. Next door neighbor, super smart girl, was at a top school graduating, and she wanted to get into sales. And I was just asked her, I said, so did they let you play around with Salesforce, Marketo? And she goes, no, we didn't do any of that stuff. And I'm thinking, what? Is it
All theoretical. What are they going to be prepared to do day one?
right? So if I know my senior year, I want to go work at a tech company in sales, I would think that's something that I'd be able to learn before going in to my new job. And now more than ever, the competition coming out of college, just the number of roles in the future that will be available, because again, pre-pandemic, I used to get buddies, kids right out of college roles at SDRs.
Hmm.
If they wanted to get into sales, I could get them SDR roles because companies were hiring a ton of them. It would be sink or swim, and the ones that did well moved on. But now again with AI, you're getting less, and that's now. So what's it going to be like 4 years from now? So yeah, the answer I think is always going to be for kids is be it the school or be it on your spare time is you got to be playing around with all the newest and coolest AI tools.
Good advice, and those keep changing on a daily, weekly
Right,
basis. So
right.
just keep on top of it.
Right, right. If you don't, then it's just like anything is you're just going to have a harder and harder time getting that job because the other grads that they're talking to are going to be talking about it.
Let me ask you just from a candidate's perspective, just to giving them some helpful, actionable advice on like what they
Right,
can do different. We already talked about smarter targeting and and not
right.
being behind the curve in terms of AI and just play every day. But what is actually differentiating candidates that get offers today? What about them and their experience and how they position themselves do you see as some consistent trends or themes that are helping them kind of get to that last mile?
Well, I mean, we'll start from the beginning. Is we'll just say their LinkedIn profile, their personal branding. People go, "Oh, I'll send you, my resume," and I'm like, "Okay," and they send me the resume, and it has all the details, and we'll say like success metrics of pipeline increase and all. You go to their LinkedIn, and there's nothing there really,
Hmm.
and I have to tell them the first thing a company does is look at that, and even on the recommendations on the bottom is like, why not use that as a reference? You say, "Oh, I have great references." Okay, put them on there. If a company's looking, they're like, "Oh my god, I know their previous CEO or a board member knows," and they give a glowing review. Psychologically, that's pushing you forward.
Right.
So, I mean, the beginning is making sure the LinkedIn profile, which is your calling card, that's
Hmm.
how people know you, and then making sure that the recruiters know you out there. And then when you're going in to interview, being able to describe, especially again, you're going into a company that's looking to go from 20 to 50, and you've done that. So being prepared to share that. Now, again, it goes back to my earlier statement. If you've never done that, what do you say? And if there's some reason that the company's like, wow, you worked at a great company and you go in there, you have to be prepared to be able to give a story of on how you're going to help them double revenue from 20 to 50 and above. And if you can't do that, it's just going to be harder and harder to continue down that process and get hired because
Yep.
there's going to be people doing that.
Right. It's like to your earlier point about, you got some big name brands on there, but taking a company from a billion to a billion.1 is not necessarily going to be the skill they need for the 20 to 50.
That's the thing I tell everybody that is just again what I mentioned, that ABM focus on companies in your power space
Hmm.
and their journey of their company. They're looking to go to here. Okay, I've done that, but don't go after companies if you can't share that story with them.
Where do you suggest they do company research? Like, what are some sources that would give them the ability to like come up with that list of the right targets based on their experience and interests?
Well, you can even chat GPT, you can go AI stuff, and that I'm looking for companies, at this. Or you can do the other thing is, like Google Alerts. You can go in and set up a Google Alert for Silicon Valley funding, and boom, if some company comes up, you're like, wow, that's a big data. I'd never heard of them. They're a big data company, and they just got funding, and boom, now that opens up a new door. It's harder now than ever if you're looking for a job because you have to do a lot of groundwork. But then again, I go back to my earlier statement. If you've worked at good companies, you're going to get eyeballs on you from recruiters because when they start searching for people on LinkedIn, they've been given the order of what companies to look for. And that's my first question. If you're a CEO, I'm like, hey, where do you want somebody from? And you're going to start rattling off companies who you believe have hired good people, had good people, and know the space. And so that's who people are going after.
Makes sense. When we chatted a week or so ago, you made a fun comment about wishing you had a time machine to see what things are gonna look like in 5 years. So I'll put you on the spot and pretend you found that DeLorean hit 88. What are you seeing?
Well, so if it's going at what's been going on now with the whole, you know, do more with less. So I would say smaller teams, of course, higher expectations, even more than they are now. And this person's got to have a bigger impact. Marketers, senior level marketers, VPs, the ones that will survive. I would say they won't have the loudest voice, but they're the ones that will know how to turn all this innovation into revenue.
Can't imagine you're going to be wrong. And, it's like, the question is that 5 years or is that like 18 months?
I know. That's the thing. I know when I told you that, like, time machine, I was thinking, gosh, should I just say 1 year? Because it's like 6 months from now. Everything is just moving so quickly that, part of me thinks, getting out of that DeLorean, that I'd step out and start going around and not just tech VP of marketing roles, just everything. It's like, oh, wow, there are people working at Starbucks. It's not all robots.
Right.
Oh, there are people working. And oh, well, the AI, yes, it's helped, but it wasn't as crazy as we had thought that it was going to eliminate all these jobs. Really, that's my hope, because I hope it isn't one of those when I step out of the DeLorean and go get a coffee that it's all robots. And, I go into a restaurant and I was like, there's no people here working.
Right.
There's just an iPad on the table. I order my food and then, a robot brings it out and I pay for it and I leave. And
that robot's probably still going to default to a 25%
yeah,
tip.
they're going to, that's going to, when I go to pay, it's going to like 25% tip. I'm like, get out of here.
So let me wrap up. You published your memoir.
Yes, thank you.
When I returned, and it was so fun because one, you just are so transparent and you really see your character of like who you are as a person as you're facing some really serious challenges in your life, health challenges, dealing with epilepsy, and just that all of those challenges had you face a lot of issues in terms of where you're going with your own career and
Right.
how to kind of reinvent yourself. And it's not just reinvent career, but where you're going to live and what are your priorities in life. And so I'd love for you to just maybe just give a little summary for those that are maybe facing similar challenges. It could be health, it could be family, it could be career questions. Do you have like some just general advice for folks that are facing those types of challenges?
Yeah, when I look back, because a lot of people have read the book and have like, wow, how did you do this, and how did you, what was your risk averse? It didn't seem like you had any, and a lot of it, I didn't overthink it. It's kind of life took me in these different directions. With the epilepsy, it was what it was, but I think when I reflect back, I don't know if I would be where I am without that happening. And then the whole thing, how I fell into, a recruiting job, running into an old golfing buddy at a golf course. I just believe a couple of things. One, we end up in life where we're supposed to end up, and it's going to be a crazy journey. Some it's just a rocket ship, and it's like, all right. But then we also meet people, every person in our life for a reason. And just meeting people on the journey was just crazy. And when the recruiting firm in LA, when I first started working there at the .com bomb, was going great, and then the bomb hit and the place shut down. Now, my wife and I, we had choices of stay in LA or not, and she had family in Seattle, and I've always been a person that, I don't just have to live here. I mean, I left San Francisco at 26 moved to LA, didn't think twice about it. Whereas I have best friends that have never left and will never leave and never thought of leaving. My advice is, as I mentioned in the book, how I ended is, just keep moving forward. Life is always going to give us challenges and it's going to make you stronger, but you just have to keep the faith, and it's going to be tough. And as I mentioned in the book, how I start off the book, I mean, I wasn't in a good place of, hey, things are going to get better. I mean, I thought it was the end, but I just knew that I just couldn't, just give up. There's going to be plenty of people, we're talking about the DeLorean. There'll be people stepping out of the DeLorean in 5 years and just going, wow, I never thought I would be here 5 years ago. I thought this, and so again, just try to stay positive, keep moving forward, and
That's great
things will
advice.
work
And
out.
I always say never underestimate the power of serendipity, because sometimes you're where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, and that's what I think of everybody. As they get older in life, they start reflecting back on that and go, wow, if I didn't go to that Giants game, and I didn't even want to go to the Giants game, but I ran into this person and then this happened, and you're just like, wow, someone's up there moving the chess pieces, and it's just like, wow, okay,
Well, Michael,
cool.
this has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much for taking the time. It's been great speaking with you.
Always. Well, thank you again, sir.
Talk soon.
Bye-bye.